Closed mouths don't get fed. Don't be limited by the things you're not willing to try. I came across a video interview with Chris Du and Martin Numer exploring one simple question. What is branding? Is branding a logo? A logo is a symbol, which is a very useful tool for identifying a brand, but it's not the brand itself. Is a brand a product? While many different brands make the same product, there may be some aesthetic or functional changes, but the product remains the same. A brand, in fact, is a reputation. Your reputation is how people feel about the actions that you take. Your brand is both the things that you make and the impact that it has on your community. Everybody is a brand, and everybody's brand is reflected in their community. Hi friends, we've all heard of the term target audience. A lot of the time the easiest way to relate to a target audience is to make sure that you're being very authentic. And the best way to do this is to use yourself as a target audience. If you're authentically into something, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to relate to these people and to make sure that you're giving them things that maybe they didn't know that they wanted, or things that you would want out of something that you're not getting elsewhere in the market. When I was working on my brand as an artist, I wrote down a list of all the things that I like, all the things that I don't like, and negative and positive things about myself. A lot of time what people do is they'll do what we used to do in art school, where you'll have the idea first and then you'll do the sketchbook pages later. But if you can actually pin down things that are set in stone, you'll never have this problem that a lot of people have, where they lose the message or they start to lose their audience because they start providing what they need. You need to remember what it is that you need while you're still that person. When you become the person who's providing it, there's a conflict there, and a whole bunch of things get into it and stop it from being this pure expression of, I just want to solve this problem. 3 of the visual calling stones that I would say for my brand is mythology, creativity, and color. But then what you'll find is that you start to actually build an audience and attract them towards you. They'll tell you things about your brand that you didn't even realize. So for example, 3 things that my audience told me about my brand that I didn't realize is I'm able to inspire their creativity, I have a calm and welcoming vibe, and that I'm building a positive community. These are underlying values that even if you're not necessarily into what I do as a creative, you can still draw value from what it is that I'm doing. One of the big frustrations is actually figuring out where you can find your audience. We're blessed to live in a time where the internet exists. It's never been so easy to connect with everyone around the world. And it's also never been so easy to have a specific niche. If you only had access to the people in your direct area, it's very rare that you'll find a bunch of people that are into the exact same things that you are. But because we have access to so many people through the internet and through social media, we can build powerful communities around niche subjects. I think Reddit is a very slept on platform to find very specific target audiences. If you've been on Reddit before, you know it breaks down into subreddits that are categorized by specific interests. For example, when I started out, I used to post a lot on art streetwear because I was very interested in streetwear. And there I was able to find a very engaged community that were able to critique what I was doing, give me pointers and tips, and also eventually become a part of my community. If you want to figure out what your community likes, a really good way is to see what they're engaging with on social media. What are they pinning on Pinterest? What are they liking on Instagram? Who are they following on TikTok? All of these things can give you ideas on what you want to pull in to make your brand work. To steal a quote that I learned from Sean Cannell from the Think Media channel, different is better than better. And if you want to make something different, I like to rely on creative principles of combining things. For example, I like streetwear and I like mythology. So combining these 2 things, I now have a hoodie with my own Cerberus design on it. These are 2 very recognizable things, but the way that I've combined them is very unique to me. If you don't have an audience, but you have an in-depth knowledge that's authentic about what that audience might want, that's something that you can use to attract people to what it is that you want to do. Your brand is your reputation, and reputation spread very easily. So if you stay authentic, stay different, and provide value, you'll find your audience in no time. In the spirit of working on something new, I decided that I wanted to do chocolate bars for this branding exercise. The first inspiration was safety matches. I'm really inspired by retro artwork on some of the boxes, and I thought the shape of the packaging could be really interesting. Next, I want to make sure that the design that I have appeals to my target audience. I looked at the most popular posts that I have on Instagram. The Kitsune posts that I've done work really well, and I think using the rug design, which I haven't shown much on YouTube, would really help. Color is extremely important to every single brand. The most popular videos on my YouTube channel incorporate brown, pink, and cream. To move it further along, I found some recipes of pink chocolate using crushed, freeze-dried strawberries. I think this will also add another unique selling point to the product and the design of the packaging. I have all of my design elements laid out, including the design of the kitsune and the box. So I'm just going to take the matches which I've drawn and multiply them out so that they're all laying across the box. This way, once the chocolate's outside, there's still a matchbox reference. I'm going to draw a circle, and then using my pattern options, I'm going to make a pattern that looks like a stripe for the matches. Drawing a box with curved edges and adding a pattern into the shape along with a background colour. Next I'll just duplicate that to the other side of the matchbox and shrink the kitsune down to a size where I can edit the box manageably. Next I want to change the colours, selecting all of the orange first and changing it to pink, selecting all of the yellow, changing that to brown, and changing the body to the cream colour to match the white chocolate. I'm going to draw a box to make an outline, just to separate the sides from the top. Add a background colour so that the kitsune design stands out against the pink, and then move my logo and change the sizing of both the logo and the kitsune, adding text at the bottom. And just like that, we have a finished design which I can now print off to make the boxes. I'm using a cutting knife and a cork back ruler to cut out all of the design elements. Make sure you use a cork back ruler so that it doesn't slip around and you don't end up cutting into the actual box design itself. I'm scoring lightly across the edges and then I'm bending the design with my fingers and a bone folder. I'm using double-sided tape to attach the design to itself. When designing a product, a lot of the time glue can be extremely messy and tape is a great alternative to this. I designed the box to need as little adhesive as possible. This way it's easy to assemble, and if this was to go into mass production, it would take less time. I fold all the edges and the flaps together to make the inside of the box, and this is the finished packaging. So I just finished all of the branding, but I did take a look at a few recipes for actually making chocolate. I was on Pinterest and I saw these like really cool DIY chocolate brands and just people that are making chocolate. I kind of thought, okay, this is gonna go horribly. I don't know if it's gonna work in the video, but I did try. I guess we're gonna see how it turned out. At least the branding I'm proud of. So yes, but this is how I attempted to make a chocolate bar. I'm using polymer clay to make a silicone mold, and glass is the best thing to use to roll it. I'm going to stick the popsicle sticks together. This way, when I'm rolling out my polymer clay, which I'm using for the actual mold, I can get an even shape. I'm using Fimo clay soft. It comes in a solid block which you can cut apart to use as much as you need. Because it's polymer clay, it only dries with heat, so it will last a very long time in between uses. Using my fingers to work the clay, I'm heating it up and I'm also shaping it so that it's much easier to use. And just adding heat by rolling it between my fingers. I'm using a clear acrylic rolling pin to shape the polymer clay, mainly just because it's quite aesthetic. It has a tendency to stick to the clay, however if you work it in slowly and then build up, it should be just fine. Using my blade to make the straight shapes and measuring as I go along, and then using my etching tool to draw the flames. I went with a flame design because the kitsune is associated with a will-o-wisp. You can use the knife tool to pick it up from the glass because sometimes it can be sticky, and then add some foil to your tray while baking in the oven. Follow the instructions when baking, which should be labelled on the packet. I baked mine for 10 minutes so that I could add them together without them being fully sealed. I used Sculpey liquid clay to mold them together. This is literally the same type of clay except it's in a liquid form, which means that you can't sculpt with it, but you can stick sculpted elements together. If I was to do this again, to be honest, I would have actually stuck these together before baking them because I did have a few problems with warping after the oven. The next stage is to make the mold box. I'm using foam board. I'm just marking out the amount that I need according to the shape and cutting it out with the same cutting knife and the cork back ruler. I'm using masking tape, in this case it's frog tape, to seal the edges together to make sure that none of the silicone I'm using will come off of the edges. Using a glue gun, I'm going to seal the edges together to make sure that nothing comes from the bottom, and using double-sided tape so that I can stick the mold down onto the foam board. This is the silicone pack that I used. It comes with everything needed in the box and I've linked it in the description. It's very small and relatively expensive, but it was the exact amount that I needed. First thing you need to do is pour the A solution into a cup, and then the B solution into the same cup and mix. Pour the silicone into the mold over the polymer clay model and leave it for 12 hours until it's fully set and hard. Next, I just use my knife to crudely cut this out and used a bit of force to open it up. The silicone held up really well, which I was very proud of. However, because I messed up with the actual model itself, some of it stuck in and there was gaps, so the silicone mold was completely unusable. Nevertheless, we move. These are the ingredients that I'm using: cocoa butter, cocoa powder, obviously for the chocolatey taste. I'm using icing sugar because it's smoother and it will have a smoother texture for the actual chocolate. Cinnamon and nutmeg for just a little bit of extra flavoring. Whole milk powder for the milk chocolate. And freeze-dried strawberries for the coloring and the flavor. To make the chocolate, I just put some water to boil. Put the cocoa butter, sugar and milk powder into a pan along with the strawberry. And for the milk chocolate, I just use the cocoa powder. This is the new mold that I made to the exact size without using a silicone mold. And I just shaped it with some foil to use as the container when I put it in the fridge. And this is how the chocolate bar turned out. Not the most delicious looking thing, but I am at least proud of the branding. But now that we've gone through the whole journey together, I have one simple question. How do you feel about the actions that I took in this video? Thanks for watching. Bye friends.